Hello, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where
Good
you are.
morning.
Good
Could be
morning.
anytime.
Um, uh, we we're excited to be here today at Learning Man, the first inaugural Learning Man as part of ShapingEDU, a community that we have, Emery and I both have been really playing a big part from its very beginning. And so is this project, which ended up being the inaugural project as part of our work as innovators in residence and ShapingEDU. So some of you have joined us previously or may have kind of kept a little bit track on where have we been and what we've been doing. But we are actually coming in midstream on this project. We kicked off the project in early January as part of our work as innovators in residence. And the project itself had a little bit even more history. The project kind of kicked off, really started as a conversation in the 2019 ShapingEDU Unconference in Arizona. So we'll give a little bit of preview today, a little bit about ourselves, start with that, and catch you up. And our main goal for today is really give you the opportunity to be part of this framework. And we're really curious and would love to hear your voices as part of this moment where we are, as we are wrapping up more or less the research part of this component and moving into the fun part, which is more in the sharing and really thinking about the impact and emerging practice and projects on our campuses. So it's really exciting moment. A little bit about me, Emery, and myself. Emery and I are co-founders of Digital Bodies. For the last 7+ years, we have been writing, thinking, presenting, talking to you and campuses across the US and across the world and organizations about really immersive learning. This has been a passion for us and something that we've tracked along and really it's something that we followed through very, very closely and really is the sort of the most important part of our work at Digital Bodies, digitalbodies.net, where we write about this and where you can find, some of our, several times a week updates that we write on the industry. We at Digital Bodies, we also like to look at the world at large. While we both come and very much embedded in higher education and education and learning as a lifelong learning actually component, we also our side looks at it more from its impact on really on the human experience, on learning and on society. So as we looked into education, we really, anchor that in its social context. And so this is why, and hence this project was so important for us. In addition to that, I lead the Access Reality Center at the New School. I am the Director for Education Futures. This is sort of some of the joy I have. This slide is all projects of some of my students and some of the students that work with us at the lab, looking into what's possible. And in particular, some of you know that at the New School, we have the Parsons School of Design. And so we have an incredible and very imaginative makers and creators, performers as part of drama and jazz. And so this is where I get to both inspire and be inspired on a daily basis. Emery, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, CEO of Digital Bodies. And for me, this, as Maya said, this has been a long journey for us. And for me, it's fascinating. It's kind of been a circular journey through my life because I actually, before I got into higher education, I did a 7 or 8 year tour through the art world and was a founding member of the New Museum, gallery director in Soho, worked a lot on innovative art projects in an era where we really didn't have immersive technologies, but people were trying to do immersive experiences without the technology. And so I found after leaving that, going into higher education and now coming back full circle to those kind of art and very innovative and sometimes even radical projects that rethink how we live in society, how we relate to each other, and what the future holds for us.
All right. So this is actually where the idea, the word about Humersive started. And this is the 2019 ShapingEDU conference where Samantha Beck, myself, and Michael were actually talking. We're coming from different perspectives. And then this idea of that learning, the people who are interested in immersive learning and the people who are interested in humanizing learning should really talk to each other. And so as we sat around, really a giant, like a compilation of roundtables, we came up with this idea, a Humersive park, where we can meet each other and shape each other thinking and the way we see the world. And so Humersive Learning is something that we also titled the project, but it's also the idea of blending these together. And in particular, also, as we look into the future, in its convergence with AI. Because obviously we move forward, and so as technology moves forward, emerging technologies becoming more readily available in different parts of society and in education, this has a big role to play. So our main project sort of guiding question is this one, and it's really stems from that, these conversations, how we can humanize this technology while simultaneously fostering innovation that will bring disruptive change to education. Because we figured out as we talk to each other that we all want to change the way things are done. And we all see an opportunity, but we also want this to be in a way that really respects our talents, respects the human experience and all the talents we bring as humans to this world. So in our early sort of investigation and looking into, well, what is this idea of humanizing learning, which has been and gaining traction as a conversation, especially as most of our schools and programs have moved into online and digital formats. And when we move there is a very easy way to also kind of like focus on tools, focus on the way that somehow the tools themselves or the administrative platforms or the social platforms themselves will create the experience. And we all know that it takes more. And also understanding that while we sit in different parts of the world, as this pandemic has put us all staying home, we also have to think about how do we connect with each other. So these are some guiding sort of principles in this idea of humanizing learning, to move away from just industrial curriculum, what it means that, a curriculum that fits, somehow it's meant to fit all, and look into more journaling and making as activities of engaging students, creating opportunities for dialogue and discourse, and build opportunities for self-reflection. So as we think about humanizing learning, moving away for just, really thinking that the disciplines stay in place, but rather thinking about how the disciplines continue to evolve and blend. And as we know, the future and what our students will face in terms of both a career and learning opportunity will be much different than we see today. And so in addition to that, we look into what is innate to all us as human, what makes us human. And these are some ideas that, these are the kind of four main ideas that surface from our research. We love to collaborate. We love to tell and listen and share stories. We love using tools. We actually like learning how to make things. That makes us creative, that builds our imagination. We like to test hypotheses. We like to make things and let them run. And with that, we like to envision different futures. From the campfire of, in the Asian caves to the campfire around the camp this week, it's that idea that as we tell these stories, they also shape the future. Our future as humans and the future of education and the future of what we'd like to do. So this is something that, kind of bring us these core ideas about humanizing. So a little bit about immersive learning. And I get it that if you're here today, you're probably interested in that. you probably have already doing and working on some projects and already have invested some time. And so that is great. I'd really love to hear in the second part of this, this session what you bring and what you're working on today. But the idea about immersive learning is some core ideas about embodiment, right? When you are actually in these spaces, you can move with them and you have the sense of presence. Then perceptual fidelity, that you are moving around things that are 3D shape and in 3D space. That gives us the idea on-demand repetition, meaning that we know already from learning, from actually research, and particularly in learning, that spaced repetition is how we learn. That, you know, as we learn things, as we hear things first time, there is a level that we are able to, you know, understand, a level of understanding, and then usually that spaced repetition in about 3 or 4 weeks, bringing these ideas back, whether it's in the classroom or just thinking through them, is actually when we actually start to shape our own learning around them. So with virtual, immersive, AR, all of these, there's an opportunity to actually create these opportunities in a very, you know, on-demand way. And then the opportunity for real feedback, which is, yes, one, there is immersive learning, once there's all of this exists, and it's in the digital environment, we get to capture a lot more feedback. We capture some feedback today from, you know, hand tracking, gestures, eye tracking, and it's even more in the future. And that the idea of emotional fidelity. Again, that sense of presence, that sense of agency that one experiences when you are put on the headset, or even when you put the mixed reality headset, when, you know, you can actually shape the environment you are in ways that is different. Okay. So to kind of like put a little bit of like a, you know, main ideas around this idea for immersive learning is the idea of virtual reality. And I'd like to expand that. We're on a continuum, meaning virtual, augmented, mixed reality, or how we all commonly have started kind of using XR, right? Extended reality. And so then the idea about learning theory. So we don't want to forget the things that we know work, but we also want to experiment. We want to be much more, you know, much more experimental, bring much more sort of emerging design to these experiences. We also want to bring data and data science in particular and understanding what works. And then what grabs this all together is the idea that this is about spatial. It's about spatial computing, it's about spaces, and it's different than simply looking on a frame on any laptop, on the wall, or on your mobile screen. So I'm going quickly around those, and we definitely stop and have a discussion, and I'll look into the chat and we get more questions. But I want to also bring you where we find ourselves today with this framework, which we started this journey in January. So as we look into these fundamental questions, as we look in what this conversation, also how they presented themselves at the conference in Tempe, we found that this Humersive Learning framework should really have 5 pillars. And it should be obviously anchored in the efficacy of immersive learning experiences. What does this bring to us in education, to our students, and our institutions? And then, as we want to serve everybody, access and accessibility is a cornerstone. We can't leave people behind. And then this idea of the convergence of spatial computing and AI. Now, this idea that this will not just be about, you know, stepping into a place, but we'll also be interacting and also displays understanding as much about you as probably some of your teachers need a lot more time and your peers have accumulated over years. And at some point, these AI teachers or coaches or tutors may be living with us and our students and the future students for really long periods of time and know us better than everybody else. So be able to push us further along. And then the idea about ethics. These are fundamentally very important questions, ethics in the digital age. And then innovation in higher education. I'm going to leave ethics because Amber is going to kick those questions, and he is, that is his topic. He's amazing and leading that conversation. And we're going to quickly go through the questions. So you'll be able to hear from him. And finally, as this, as we look in this, in education, in learning, the future of learning, we have to think about is as an ecosystem. And we also have to think about it that we want to bring new ideas, fresh ideas, think differently of how we can do things. And so we have to be innovative, and also innovative across the entire ecosystem. So hence our fifth pillar of the framework, we wanted to focus on how do we scale up? How do we make these new opportunities to be creative, to bring new learning experiences to our students, actually scale up across education. So this is the framework. This is our 5 sort of cornerstone or pillars around which our work has centered. As we kicked in the project, I also had to share this amazing image that the very talented Corinna Branson, who's also is
here again today.
And working today with us, created. And so we love these covers, and you see we've adopted these covers. And I couldn't possibly not share this image, which captured the kickoff of conversation from earlier in January. And you'll see on the majority of our website, we absolutely love it. And it actually maps up precisely those pillars we're talking about. Okay, so we're going to just very quickly walk you in how we define those. I want to say that we pose some really big questions, and then we realize that ultimately these all present a question. And so we shape our definitions in the way we actually ask these questions in the context of immersive learning, humanizing learning, and the future of education, and opportunity to scale up innovation. So while we have some definition, on our slides today, as well as on the framework, which you'll see some mapping document, these are shaped and embody the questions we basically sought to ask at this point in time. So as I mentioned, we are thinking about immersive learning in the context of what it can do for us. What are some the opportunity, the immediate opportunity, as well as the long-term opportunity, and will be reflected very much in the questions. So I'm not going to read those, but this is how we focus. And then we're looking at access and accessibility, and you see a number of questions that focus around this as we start the design thinking activity. As in terms of how do we actually create the opportunity for conversation between education and industry, between people with disabilities and people who are creating content, and also creating platforms and basically being inclusive in its design, and it's in a way everybody can really be part of this and play a role and play a part in this ecosystem.
And it's such an important issue. It's already come up in the chat, I noticed. So thank you for doing that. And you have a chance to suggest some solutions here on this very, very important issue.
Okay, so next up is that idea of spatial computing, right? Some of you may use the HoloLens 1, 2, the Magic Leap, some additional devices where you have to see the precursors of what it will mean to wear a pair of glasses. Now, today, these devices are prohibitively expensive. We have one off or a few on each campus. But very soon, and probably within years, the first eyewear is already available. It's only a matter of how quickly things get smaller and how quickly companies are able to bring this to a cost that is affordable. Of course, that will be a moment. As many of you know, there's different projects around the globe. Of course, everybody's eyes are on the Apple project in terms of making something that you can wear on your hand that will disconnect from having to do AR on our phones and moving our phones in space, or tablets, or wearing a heavy bulk headset. And it will be something that will start probably with a limited access on the eyewear. But of course, what's important here is to think about all the other devices that will connect to it, right? All the wearables, all the Internet of Things, all the data that will actually permeate the world. And some oftentimes now has been referred as the idea of the AR cloud. Okay, moving on. A little faster. Emery, this is your topic.
All right. Talk about this just very briefly because I want us to get to the virtual whiteboard space or virtual workspace that we can use here. But one thing that has from the very beginning been of critical interest to us is the ethics here of immersive technologies. Part of it is immersive technology itself. Part of it is the fact that immersive technologies don't exist as standalone body of technologies. It'll converge with AI, with with data gathering, with a whole range, just like our mobile phones are convergence of different technologies into one unit. The same thing's going to happen with immersive tech. And it really, the most important thing here to keep in mind, I think, is that it really shifts the fundamental paradigm of our relationship to technology. Right now, technology for us is largely a tool. We do things with it. We complete tasks, whether it's we communicate with each other or we write something or we develop a presentation. What is happening with immersive technology is it's no longer technology to do something, but it's technology to experience something or to be somewhere or perhaps even to be someone different. So technology is going to become a platform for accessing all the full range of human experience. And that just doesn't mean the good and wonderful experiences we'd all love to have. And there's lots of debate about empathy here that we need to talk about at another time, but it can come up here, obviously. But because just as with social media, there's going to be bad experiences. There's going to be negative experiences out there. And those are all going to have to be dealt with in the learning environment. And it's one thing to ask somebody to read a book. It's a whole nother thing to ask somebody to step into an experience of, let's say, a meatpacking slaughterhouse or something, as opposed to just read about it. There's a level of immediacy there. So there's just a wide range of ethical issues here that we're just beginning to touch upon that we're going to have to address. Okay.
All right. And then finally is, as I mentioned, the idea of really innovation or thinking differently of what we can do with this technology, with these immersive application and new tools that are coming to us in education. And as Emery and I have often talked about, thinking beyond what we've done with other tools. I think that's the most important part for us to push ourselves further. To think about this as a blank canvas where we can create, where we can invite our students to create. I will also mention, I did see the question about making, and I think it's the idea of students as creators, to see that not as an opportunity for us to just have students run through simulations or run through some kind of lab experiments, which is equally important and really brings a lot of important skills to application, particularly in the medical and sciences field, but also give this an opportunity for students to create, to build worlds. And so sometimes next time, in a few years, students will be not just submitting something in a text form or even in a link, but will be probably saying just, welcome, come over to my world, and I want to explain to you how this would work, how this solution I'm thinking about, what I'm prototyping, what I'm building, what I am making. So in that sense of us students as creators.
Yeah, it won't be let me write about this. It will be let me show you this. I can have you step into this.
So now we want to share with you what is kind of like the Humersive Learning framework and the making. So we see on top, this is just to orient you in an application which we use like a digital whiteboard, where we will soon, just in a few minutes, invite you to collaborate. And what you see on top is basically some of the first row is some of the ideas that I just shared with you. We wanted to bring you up to speed on where we've been in the last 6 months. And then below now, we have developed these pillars, these 5 pillars that we're working, along with some questions and along with some examples. And so we're going to invite you, and I'm going to stop sharing screen this in the moment, but just wanted you to see this in this form before we move on the whiteboard and working with this.
Actually,
and so,
maybe you should share the murals on your screen.
Yeah, I'm just going to explain here how this is going to work. So on each, we just run you through basically understanding the definition as we understand them on these main pillars, which you see on each one of them. And then below that is a set of questions, and below that is just the starting point of example. We just wanted to kind of tease a few ideas for you. And then below you see a number of empty sort of sticky notes, which we will be encouraging you to populate and create more. And even below, there's an opportunity to share examples. So many of you work on campuses and you already have experiences, or you know of experiences that are exemplary of this, and will be, something that will reflect some of the pillars of the framework. And so we'll ask you to actually, make your mark on this framework. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go to Mural. I'll share with you a link, as well as I will also just demonstrate very quickly how you participate in the doc. So first, let me get the link for you so that you can load it as just taking the slide, taking the link. Emily, if you have the link, you can also share it.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
It just, yeah, I have.
You got it? Do you have it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to share the link, and at the same time, as you load those links on your desktops, laptops, where I will also, and let me know in the chat if you have any troubles accessing it. Right. So I will also share my screen and also give you, yeah. So the password for this link, it's ShapingEDU, all lowercase. Yes, it is password protected. We are giving you full access today, but we also ask you to be slightly careful of like moving things around. And then a lot of things are anchored at this point, and the good part is pretty stable. But just
Can you share your screen, Maya?
I'm sharing my screen.
Okay. Password is ShapingEDU, right?
Yeah, password ShapingEDU.
Lowercase.
Yes. All right. So in a moment, you will see this application, which is what it is, a digital ShapingEDU small case.
Getting some comments that it's not working in the chat. Is it uppercase? What happened?
No, it's a lowercase. All right. No, is it working for anybody? I just want to know whether it just worked. Okay. Yeah.
Maya, we needed to do an uppercase S.
Uppercase S. Sorry about that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me put that in again.
Lisa, I can hear your voice. Appreciate it.
Okay. There's password there at the end. Okay.
Right.
Sorry about that. All right.
Okay. So you can see here that this is one big digital board. You can also see as you come in that in the lower left,
lower right corner
on your personal laptop, you will see a window, and in that window you see a small box, And as you move the box across, you'll be able to actually move to the framework and the content. Also, oh, I love seeing you all popping up on the framework here, and with there's a bee and there's a bear, and lots of interesting beings.
So you can enlarge it as much as you want or shrink it down to see the overview, however you want.
Yeah, you see that there is a percentage, a slider. And it's minus and pluses, but you can also use that to slide it down. And I usually keep mine around 30. Gives me a good way to kind of move around. You could go higher, but you can also move it. I like to see a little bit more on my screen, but you can also basically move it around. So actually we're gonna stop and give you a couple of minutes to just navigate and move through this document and see how you find things. Send some questions in the chat. You're welcome also to unmute yourself and voice them. So we'll just take 2 to 3 minutes for you to just move around this document. Make sure that everybody has access and is able to move around. So let us know if you're on it, or if you have any any questions around how you navigate the digital whiteboard. Okay, so you can scroll. Okay, so as you move around, you can also see questions, and you can see these sticky notes. So if you right click on them, you'll see that you can edit text. So you're welcome to take on, and we just previewed with you the main topics. If there are things that you feel particularly passionate, or you feel like I've been investing in this topic and I really feel like that's where I'd like to contribute, please focus on that area. Whether it's that efficacy, whether it's access, whether it's ethics. So find that building block. They're all color-coded in the framework. Look at the questions. So look at the questions for each of these, whichever is of most interest for you to work on. And then, as I mentioned, click on one of those sticky notes, and then right click and do edit. And as soon as you do edit, it will actually put you right in the middle of the in the sticky note, and you can start typing. So you can start typing your contribution. So I invite you to share whether it's link. You can also add your own sticky notes. There you can see them on top, but you can also see on the left, there's like this open, like a page that is kind of turning the second on the menu. If you open that, you see a number of different sticky notes. You can pick that, whichever one you want, and also write.
If you prefer certain colors, right?
If you prefer certain colors. But you can just take on some of the already existing, as I mentioned, right click on them, edit text, and you can start writing. And we are looking today, this is a design thinking brainstorming activity. So we're not looking at fully formalized ideas, but if you just want to leave a note, if you know that somebody's working on something, if your campus is working on something, if you want to just leave us a comment, take this time, and we can pause now for about 5 minutes for you to make those contributions. If you just prefer to share a project or experience, we also have a separate, further down on the list, we also have AR/VR project example, 360 video. That is also an area you can, as I mentioned, just, right click anywhere on this canvas and say add sticky note, add a comment, and you can start building it there. We kind of organized the document in a little bit to help us with the questions, but if feel free to just drop those. Oh, I love that something is starting to populate.
I love that we are visiting snakes, shrimps, hippopotamus, everything here. This is a camp with a lot of wildlife.
I know we are at camp, and you are some really curious learners because it's day 4 and you're here. So we appreciate that. You know, I think a lot of people are already at the beach. Oh, it's great to see these contributions coming up. And yes, what we'll do is we'll review additional steps, but this particular link will be live and open to edits until tomorrow. But then beyond that, there will be several additional opportunities for you to participate. So, you know, do a few notes later today for sure, tomorrow. And then we'll also talk what we do next. So I want us to bring us back because these sessions are timed. Camp, you know, is it's still, you know, these activities are great, and it's great to see everybody contributing. And I know that there's even more sessions today for you to enjoy. Oh, love it! I see somebody putting an image. So we want to open it for discussion on the questions, on the framework, on what you just did. Really, this is, we want to take the next, you know, 5 to 7 minutes to hear your voices. So turn on the mics, turn on the cams. Let's have a conversation.
Hi, this is Chris Hoffman from UC Berkeley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank the two of you for providing some leadership and guidance in this space. It's such a complex area and such a quick moving, fast moving area. And I just want to thank you because you've really helped with your work through EDUcause and now ShapingEDU. You really provided a framework and some thoughts. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And it is very much a fast moving field. You're absolutely right. It seems like every time we go to do a presentation or a conference, we're scrambling to redo presentations, to rethink what's going on because so much has been happening. And it's happening on an almost weekly basis, even in the midst of a pandemic. We have a new Oculus Quest coming out. We have other developments. So you're right. But it's, you know, it's going to take all of us as a community to really make this happen. I appreciate it. Other comments? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you again so much. Just to echo that, this is really exciting. I'm a graduate student trying to study this sort of work, so I'm very excited about the opportunity here. I had a specific question that we don't have to dive into right away. I'm curious about agency and the sense of agency that can be facilitated, but it seems kind of paradoxical in a way. You know, the therapeutic uses of immersive technology can help someone, for example, with PTSD to relive the situation that triggers them and then realize it's not as dangerous, or, you know, people, for example, that went through 9/11, reliving a simulation of that and then kind of helping to overcome themselves. And so it's kind of propels them through the situation against maybe their own sort of tendency. And yet it also seems like this sort of technology can help foster increased agency in the sense of I can do anything. So I'm curious what folks think about how that's going to move forward.
Yeah, it is a fascinating question, and a question particularly I'm invested in myself because storytelling. My context in walking into this field has been from the very beginning the idea of storytelling. And it's very interesting when you think about agency and presence. And sometimes it's a fluid understanding because we can do so much with so little agency and be completely fooled that we actually have a lot more agency than we do. and it's in the craft, in the making. But it certainly is an opportunity to, just on a very fundamental level, if you think about the idea that you can create things in VR and have a way to change and move and do things in this world, in virtual reality, whether it's in terms of learning a skill or learning, behavior pattern is incredibly important. And that's where agency comes in, that you can actually practice that agency. You can, you can see yourself, walk into yourself behaving in a different way, but also walking into somebody else's shoes. It is indeed a loaded question, so we're going to have to continue that conversation
later on.
I do run XR meetups as part of the new school on Fridays, and we are those XR meetups at the XR Artist Center open to anybody in the world, and we have people from Africa tuning in. So if you're interested, join us in the fall.
Join in. Yeah, it's really good.
Is agency presence, embodiment.
These are all the key issues here.
Always on the list.
Right.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Do we have time for one more question? We have another question or comment? Sure. Okay. If anyone wants to chime in, please go ahead.
Take the mic.
Take the mic, somebody. Okay, you have it, Cynthia.
Okay, I'll just say I am so new to this, and I appreciate it. I have been a professor for over 20 years, and I am curious how you're addressing the dualistic needs of our students and young folks in the world needing to connect more with our environment and planet to really save humanity, and on the other hand, this bringing us into a virtual world with all of its tools and all of its enhancements and opportunities. I'm just seeing a dualism there, and I'm curious how you'd address that.
There is a huge dualism there, and it goes all the way back to Palmer Luckey creating the first Oculus Rift, because his original idea was that we would be in virtual spaces and we wouldn't need the real world. We'd just be able to abstract ourselves from the real world. We wouldn't need luxury goods because we'd have virtual luxury goods. He didn't talk about the environment, but you could parallel the same kind of response in that way too. So I think it works both ways there. I think there's wonderful experiences showing global warming that puts you right into it to see the evidence of it that you can't see in a classroom or see in the same way in a traditional media. Yet on the other hand, there's the danger that we could delude ourselves into thinking everything's okay while the world just burns up around us. So I don't think there's an easy answer there. I think it's going to be up to us to shape the technology for the human uses that we need it for and the kind of work that you're doing.
I think it's also, a younger generation see this in a very different way. You see that sometimes the ability, they actually look for their carbon footprint. And they're like, oh, I don't have to fly to see some of these things or to be at some of these places that I need to be. And in addition, I'm saving my miles to do something where I want to be. And I'm saving this environment for the next generation or for the times when I can go there and visit. And so, in their sort of sometimes my students themselves, which are very conscious in terms of climate change, particularly at the new school, they see this as an opportunity to make a much more conscious choice. At the same time, they're very concerned, and as I mentioned, a lot of the young people I work with come from design, performing arts, some of them social sciences, journalism, media studies. And all of them come, even the students that we have in college right now in particular, are very concerned about what this means to them. They've all gone to camp. They love camp, right? That's why we are here this week. And so they want to see how these opportunities, how this helps them in some ways do better, in some of the ways to create these things, to create their projects, to share their projects, and in the other ways, how to place this in their own life. And I think we have a role to play in all of that. And as I usually say, there's no better way for us to educate this next generation, but to have them engage with this technology. we've just recovering from the social media mayhem in which we, all witnessed what's happening. Imagine in 2 years how this particular medium can actually have an impact on discourse, on our political system, on governance. So the only way for students to understand that impact is for them to be part of it, to engage with this, to be part of the, be a creator in this, because then you understand the flow of data, then you understand your power as a creator, or as a designer, or as a maker. And I think that's the best way to look into that.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Ash, are we about time to wrap up? Okay.
okay. So on the ShapingEDU site, which was where the project is right now, there is an opportunity to to sign up to receive updates for this project and collaborate. I just G-chatted it one more time. If you scroll down at the bottom of that, you will see basically opportunities to sign in. This is the best way. Now, this mural will be open. We probably will run a couple of more of these brainstorming, prototyping, design thinking activities because we'd like to invite contributions. So if you continue to be interested, let us know. If you think there is a group that you may be interested to also contribute, even if it's 3 or 5, we're happy to engage. And we see that both as a learning experience for teams and organizations, as well as opportunity to contribute. And then very shortly, we are actually going to send a formal survey. So if you do want to receive the survey, should go on that ShapingEDU site, go down and submit, fill in the form, which is very simple, pretty much asking you, like most form, an email and a name, so that you can receive the updates. In the survey, we'll ask we'll be teasing out some of the teams, as well as if you have, you can share the surveys. If you have people on the campus who are involved, who are working with students in the XR space, who are participating in making some experiences, whether it's in STEM or humanities or any part, so they can, if you want your campus or your experience featured, or you know of somebody, and we're looking into basically include that and open it to all. So, and these are the next steps. And soon after, we're looking to wrap this up, create actually a formal framework that will be shared with community. It's something that will be, again, to use with your teams, to use as you begin to think about, what you're doing today on your campus with XR and where you're going. Emery?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for all your contributions today. Again, this will continue this afternoon and tomorrow morning, so think of it as an ongoing camp activity. Please continue to add your comments, your insights, your ideas, your suggestions, and then we'll have an opportunity to do this again down the road with some kind of live session and wrap this up. And hopefully it will be a framework that will be, again, as Maya said, a resource for the entire community and for all of us that are working on this frontier of new technology.
Yes, and I just went to the page and G-chatted that link where you can sign up. As I said, we asked for just an email and a name. You can follow us on that page. You can follow us on Digital Bodies, where weekly we write, and Emery's very prolific, and in this space, and raise questions and see the connection between education and industry and partnerships and media and society.
Yeah. And we promise, if you sign up on the doc form, we promise we won't spam you. It won't be that frequent emails. Just only when there's something going on. So don't worry about that.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. We do have another session tomorrow, which will be looking into augmented reality. We do see an opportunity today, in particular in the place we live, which is unfortunately not in our campuses, in our labs, for students to engage with AR. Again, in that context with as students as creators. So tomorrow morning, afternoon, depending on where you're in the world, time of day, We will also run a short session that will, that will just illustrate some examples and, have some hopefully fun and playtime with it.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Hope to see some of you tomorrow, and we'll see you out there in the metaverse. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.